Shabbat Shalom, everybody. There is a glare on this today, so I can't see people. It's just reflecting the stained glass behind me. For some reason, I don't know why that is today, but so it's even more distant than it usually feels for me. So I apologize. So there was an unfortunate circumstance that happened this morning while I was out walking tamale. I just want you to know, before I tell you the story, everybody is okay. I was walking tamale this morning, and across the street from me was a woman older than myself, let's just say, and she was walking her dog, and both our dogs at the same time lunged at each other from across the street, which is a common occurrence. I was prepared for it. Apparently she was not, and she fell over. As I said, nobody was significantly hurt. Maybe a few dented prides, but she had a difficult time getting up because apparently she had some knee replacement surgeries a while back, but her knees don't work properly anymore. At least that's what she indicated. So myself and somebody who happened to be running went over and picked her up, and thankfully she was fine. That she wasn't significantly hurt, and that she fell down, but she got up again. And that's an important message for us this morning. And her stumble this morning, however, was nothing like the obstacles that John Lewis, Representative John Lewis, had to overcome in his life. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell remarked on the passing of Congressman John Lewis this past Friday. The Congressman Lewis place is among the giants of American history and was secured long before he ever entered Congress. You didn't need to agree with John, said Mitch McConnell, on any policy details to be awed by his life, admire his dedication to his neighbors in Georgia's 5th District, or appreciate his generous and respectful and friendly bearing. That was Mitch McConnell who said that of John Lewis. Lewis, you might know, was jailed and beaten, but never bowed. He was the son of sharecroppers, and he was one of the first freedom fighters. He was attacked and left for dead in a bus station in Montgomery, Alabama. But he got up and he led a fight for justice. He rejected violence and embraced love. And on August 28th, 1963, he stood alongside Martin Luther King and delivered a speech as well to those massive numbers of people who had marched in Washington around the Lincoln Memorial. And he said the following: "We will march through the South, through the streets of Danville, through the streets of Cambridge, through the streets of Birmingham. We'll march with the spirit of love and the spirit of dignity that we have shown here today." And then, not knowing how long it was going to take, he said, "We don't want freedom gradually, we want it now." Patience is difficult in the least pressing circumstances. It's even more unbearable when the stakes are so high. Liberation, true freedom takes time, and there are no shortcuts. Whether it's for a nation or it's for individual people or personal enslavements, take time to throw the shackles off. It often begins with a march, but that march is just the beginning of a journey. Look, if you have ever been, like me, heavy-footed on the gas pedal, you're not thinking for a moment about the other lives that you're putting in danger. You're only thinking about how to make up a few minutes, to gain a few more extra time on your journey so that you can get there a little faster. So when I do that, I start a little bit of a exercise in my head. I say to myself, if I speed and I get pulled over, that's going to take at least 15 minutes. And if it takes 15 minutes on a journey of 2 hours, it means that amount of speed I'd have to go to make up that 15 minutes would be nearly impossible, because I won't speed that much even. And so I do the math in my head and I recalculate that if I go the speed limit or just a little bit more and I don't get pulled over, then I will have saved a lot of time. And that's nothing compared to the lives that could be saved. But you can't help but hear the child in the back of your mind who keeps saying, when are we going to get there? How much longer is the ride? It's just like the Jewish people who, leaving Egypt, say over and over again, I'm thirsty, I'm hungry, I'm bored. Can't you get us there any faster? And Moses in this week's Parsha points out that in fact the journey from Egypt to Israel should be an 11-day journey. Text says, "Achadasar yom mechorev derech har seir ad kadesh barnea." It takes only 11 days to get from Chorev, the mountain where God gave the Jewish people the Torah. It only takes 11 days to get from there to Kadesh Barnea. And then Rashi explains, just as a parent does when they get lost, if you hadn't distracted me, we would have been there by now. We all know that because we've said it before. So Rashi says, Amar lahem Moshe Re'u, ma garamtem lach, ein lachem derech tzara, me chorev lekadesh barnea. Rashi says, you're the ones who made it so long. If you hadn't misbehaved during the journey, if you had only followed the instructions, if you had seen the promised land and the potential within yourself immediately, we wouldn't have had to go round and round in circles. Moses said to them, see, you brought it on yourself. We would have been there by now. Moshe, through the words of Rashi, explains to the Jewish people that it's not how long it takes to get somewhere from the journey from freedom to promised land. It's not a journey of physical proximity. It's a journey that has to be taken in the soul. They could have made the trip shorter, but they never would have accomplished what they needed to accomplish, and that was to redeem themselves. As parents, we do this for our children all the time. I know my parents did it for me. I do it for my children. I say to them, just follow my advice. Life is so much easier if you would just listen to me. But like the Jewish people in the desert, our children often have to learn the lessons for themselves. The journey could be shorter. It could be easier. It could have fewer obstacles if we just took the advice of the elders, the sage wisdom of our parents. But just like our children, the Jewish people needed to learn the lessons for themselves. They needed to learn about their own capabilities. Rashi, in fact, is teaching something we already know, and that is there are no shortcuts in life. There are no free lunches in life. There's no way to truly game the system of life. You have to go through it stage by stage, step by step. And that's why the comment of the Ishbitzer Rebbe, the Mea Shilach, Mordechai Yosef Leiner, who expands on this passage, teaches us something so powerful. He says, Hainu ki inyan kabbalat Torahu, shekanu divrei Torah b'moachem, v'silchechem, v'datechem. The Eretz Yisrael romez l'kviyat divrei Torah. Pointing to the fact that Chorev is the place where we received the Torah. The Ishbitzer teaches us a really powerful lesson, and that is it's hard to grasp Torah just like it's hard to accomplish anything in life. There are no shortcuts, he says. Accepting Torah comes through effort, b'moachem, through effort. The insight that the Ishbitzer is teaching us that everything takes time. It's not so easy to learn everything. But just as the Jewish people were able to do it through effort, though they get knocked down, they get up again. It just takes time. You can't rush it. If you get knocked down, you got to get up again, because the journey is far, but we all have the ability to arrive in a promised land. It's difficult to get from childhood to adulthood. It's hard to get from pain to healing. It's hard to understand what's going to come from learning through suffering. And it doesn't happen overnight. Mr. Lewis led, alongside Martin Luther King Jr., a fateful march for voting rights that ended with a brutal attack by police at the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Alabama. And he describes the moment. The troopers came towards us, beating us with whips and nightsticks. Mr. Lewis recalled in an interview in 2017, I was the first one to be hit, knocked down. My knees went out from under me. I thought I saw death. I thought I was going to die on that bridge. In that interview, he then later said that for all those people out there who said nothing has changed, he said, come walk in my shoes. See how far we've come since those fateful days. Look, the journey is hard, he was saying, and it's long. But look at how far we've come. If you need more encouragement, look backwards to see all the stages you went through to get to this moment. And recognize that you might get knocked down. And the journey may be long. But get back up again and make strides for the future. Our country lost a great leader in John Lewis. Our people have taught the similar lesson to the world, and that is, it's a long journey, but every journey begins with a step, and that step is the first and most difficult part of the process. So the message is simple this Shabbos. If you get knocked down, get up again and continue walking towards the future, because the arc of history bends towards justice. Shabbat Shalom.